Hello. So, this is ironic, given the content of the last video and the amazing YouTube comments that followed it. So a couple of days ago I got invited by a group of feminists here in Kuala Lumpur to speak at a talk for them. And I agreed to do it, and in order to do that I joined the meetup group, and it's called Soul Sisters. The lady who runs the group, who contacted me originally to do the talk, said, "Oh, so you're a soul sister now?" I just joined your group and I was like, yes, I'm a soul sister. And I thought that was interesting, but she's just sent me another email and she used the word shaman, jokingly, with a winking smiley face. And I'm sure you'll be good now, young shaman. And I thought, shamans, yeah man, I haven't thought about shamans for a while. Another friend of mine, who is a counsellor, who's just co-authored a book on childhood abuse. She's very interested in shamanism as well, and I discussed it with her. It's been off the radar for me for a while, but I discussed it with her a couple of years ago, and she was obsessed with this idea of shamanism, and I discussed with her the archetype of the shaman and the healer, the witch, the wizard, the warlock. And we were saying, you know, there seems to be this movement now where some people are self-identifying with that archetype more, and it tends to be people who either feel like they're outcast or they're on the edge of a tribe. And this fits in with some of the videos that I wrote. Did I write them? What the hell? I'm trying to put everything into an auditory frame because that's how my mind thinks. I think in letters. I didn't write them, I shot them. And we were talking about narcissistic abuse, and we were talking about the golden child and the black sheep. And since I did those videos, I've had a ton of emails from people saying, yeah, that's been true for me. I think I'm the black sheep in the family. And I just spoke to a client who feels that he was the same way. And then immediately afterwards, I get an email from a lady who says that she's experiencing the same thing. And there does seem to be this tendency for the people who become the black sheep of the family. They're unusual people who are talented, who are resourceful, who are intelligent. I'm always surprised, and I always was with Street Fight Secrets, I get a lot of musicians contacting me. And with the Spartan Life Coach project, there's been a lot of singers contacting me. Particularly, the lady I just spoke to via email is a singer. But everybody I'm talking to who seems to feel that they're the black sheep of the family, they have something special about them. Which is a tricky thing, because then you start asking the question, well, if you've been the victim of narcissistic abuse, has the narcissism rubbed off on you, and are you somewhat narcissistic? And I think that that's true, because if you think about it, what a narcissist is doing is they're trying to evoke as much positive emotional attention onto themselves to self-validate, feel good. You know, I'll do whatever dance I need to do, sing whatever song I need to sing, do whatever performance I need to perform to get that love. I wonder how many of your mainstream top-billed Hollywood actors and actresses have come from families where their parents were either indifferent to them or were outright narcissists. So there is a narcissism that rubs off on you. There's a difference though between being a narcissist and being narcissistic. I, for example, am narcissistic. I am not a narcissist. When you change it to a noun, although it's not very clear, unfortunately, it implies abuse. I'm not narcissistically abusing anybody. But yeah, I have narcissistic tendencies. It's quite normal for most people to have narcissistic tendencies, but that's a million miles away from me needing to encroach your personal boundaries and to invade your psychological space to make myself feel better and to bully you and put you down. But the golden child doesn't really interest me. Who cares about golden childs? Black sheep interest me. As I say, they tend to be quite talented, and so there's 2 points I was going to make. Is one, yes, narcissism can rub off, and yes, you do see narcissism amongst people who are talented, who are special, because it makes sense, because they're fighting for positive attention from the parent that's not giving them the attention. And bear in mind that positive attention from our parents is actually something that we thirst for, like oxygen. And some people have suggested, and some psychological research has supported the view, that a lack of positive attention from parental adult figures in a baby's life can be detrimental physically. They won't develop properly, they won't acquire language as quickly, their immune systems won't be as strong, and some people have even claimed there's research that indicates that babies could die if ignored. Babies in orphanages in very poor countries who are being fed, their illnesses are being treated, but they're not being picked up and coddled and cooed over and sung to and stroked and told that they're beautiful and all of these things. They actually end up sick and die. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? We see, every time I see kids, babies, I always think, isn't it interesting how your eyes are sort of like, you're drawn to them. I live in a very Chinese area, and kids under the age of 4 who've not been socialized into political correctness, like, don't do that, they haven't got that policeman inside their heads, they'll stare at me because there's no white people where I am, and they'll stare at me and they'll be like, oh, fucking white guy, what's wrong with his skin, why is he so pasty? So I get these kids look at me, and I always think it's interesting that at a genetic, biological, human level, you feel, they're cute, and the instinct is I like to observe emotional reactions in myself. The instinct is like a soft instinct. It's like, oh, that's really cute. Aren't they cute? Aren't they? And you feel motivated to take care of them. And then you think about it and you go, oh, evolutionary psychology. Of course, a baby's cry should be extremely aggravating, because in a survival context, if you ignore the hungry baby, then the hungry baby will die. The look of a small child should be cute and should inspire the desire to say, oh, aren't you cute? Which is what I do here. I'll try and get them to speak English to me. I'll speak a little bit of Cantonese to them. Whatever it is. Why would I do that? But I feel motivated to do it. And then as kids get older, they get less and less cute. And it's not. I don't think it's that. It's that they really do. I think that we've evolved in a sense to go, okay, young biological entity. I know this all sounds rather cruel and biological, but young entity needs positive attention. You're cute. Let's have a chat. Let's talk. Let's interact. My immediate response, your immediate response is, hey, how are you? If you want to talk to a Chinese kid, you say, le hou ma, in a nice voice, le hou ma, and try and get them to talk back. Why do you want to talk to them? Because that's important to their brain development, that they acquire language, that they socialize, that they can talk to adults. It's a funny thing. The other thing I always notice is like kids' eyes are always really, really wide. And then as we get older, I look at my eyes back on some of the videos and I'm like, my eyes look like they're swollen and closing as I've seen too much. And your eyes close as you get older and older and older. And you get deafer. People maybe hear too much, and then I don't want to hear anymore, and then the hearing starts to close off. And this brings me back to shamanism, because the archetype of the shaman in most cultural references, whether it's a book or a series or a film, I was watching the series that has Robbie Carlyle in it as Rumpelstiltskin, can't remember the name of it, but he sees a seer. And this seer is a little girl, and she's blind, but she has eyes on her palms. Another series I was watching the other day was Vikings, the new series Vikings, which is pretty good. And they have a seer in that, and the seer again is blind. Why? Two things. One thing is I think it's supposed to represent the massive trauma that an instinctive, unconscious, archetypal storytelling level think inspires psychic ability. And who knows, maybe it does. Maybe we could say at the psychological level and keep it modern Western scientific, pain inspires insight. The more pain and the more suffering you've experienced, the more insight you have. Somebody who's been very spoiled their whole lives and endured nothing, they generally don't have that much insight, don't have that much to say. So there's the pain thing, and also a more crude symbolic level. If you can't see because you've been blinded, then all you have is your inner sight. So the idea is that the shaman's inner sight has woken up. The third eye is opened because they've literally physically been blinded. And in Vikings, and in that series with Robert Carlyle as Rumpelstiltskin, they've done it so that they have these horrible scars that look like they've either been burnt or had their eyes chopped out or something. But it's an archetype that's very, very real. The seer, the visionary, the shaman. And I actually, the number of times I'm talking to these black sheep, the words they use when they email me, the language they use, they have a superior vocabulary, they have a superior grasp of words, they have tremendous insight. They're coming to me and they're saying, can you please advise me? When they've already completely accurately analysed every single part of their family relationship. They know what's going on, they are aware, they see. And I have wondered if, in ancient times, you know, when we used to live in villages of just 30 or 40 people, if these black sheep wouldn't be the shaman, if they wouldn't be the seer, if they wouldn't be the witch, who maybe is a little bit different, who maybe is a little bit cleverer, a little bit smarter, the one who can go out and find the right herbs and the right mixes and whatever else to make the remedies, the one who knows where all the magic mushrooms are. That's a useful skill to have. That'll cause you to see a few things. You want insight? Snap that third eye open. So maybe that's where the archetype also comes from, and I do wonder sometimes with the people I'm talking to, and I know that a lot of people are wondering it themselves, if they have more psychic ability. Are they more sensitive? When we use the word psychic nowadays in modern parlance, it always has the meaning of magical, non-scientific, but psychic originally, and if you look in psychoanalytic literature, just means of the mind. So I do talk to people in therapy about psychic space. I said to a client recently, I don't have the psychic space for what you're asking me to do. So the idea of being psychic for me is a little bit more of a blurred line. In that sense, maybe I'm more like Carl Jung. I'd be like, okay, this is what we know. Modern Western analysis requires that we be reasonable, but maybe there is something mysterious and mystical going on here as well. I'm just being open to that philosophical level. So yeah, maybe all you black sheeps are the shamans. Maybe you're meant to have this vision, maybe you're meant to be special, maybe you're meant to be different. And maybe there is a historical record of these people being persecuted and punished and driven out and even sometimes tortured and burned because of their vision, because of the threat that they represent to the status quo. Maybe people like us, have always represented a threat to the status quo because we see too much vision. So shamanism, vision, black sheeps and witchcraft. That's a fun little video podcast for you. Okay, I'll speak to you soon.